Hey there, everybody. Welcome, one all, to Retro Repair Roundup number 5. And
Did you think we'd be going 5 episodes in?
Like, no. I mean, right?
I just after we got that cease and desist from all those tech companies, I was amazed. I'm glad we're still here.
It's okay. I made him an offer they can't refuse. What's the matter for you? You don't like our channel?
I'm smart. I know about computer stuff, not dumb like they say.
Oh, darn. I just realized who told me I was supposed to wear no one told me I was supposed to wear a hat. This is crazy.
That's okay.
It's all good. Don't worry about it, man.
Okay, you got the right haircut.
Yeah. I'm proud of
There's a letter in the care package we sent over ahead of time for guests. It must have got stuck under the loans.
Yeah.
Fine.
Oh well.
Sorry, Joe.
I can't go.
No, you're fine. Anyway, thanks everybody for stopping by. Remember to smack that like button and subscribe to this wonderful, cool channel. But without further ado, let us introduce the man of the hour, the awesome repair god himself, Bruce Rayne of Branchus Creations. Say hi to everybody, Bruce.
Hi, everybody. How is everyone?
Everyone in chat says they're great.
Excellent. Good.
I'm sure they're all good.
That was a very nice thing for you to say. I don't consider myself a repair god at all, but thank you.
Of course, we got all of our regular hosts here. We got Joe, that's me, of Joe's Computer Museum. Ron, of Ron's Computer Videos, who did some really cool video game stuff lately. We got Hav Master, Adventures in Retro Computing, also of the Joystick Appreciation Society. And Rudy, who, if you take him off, he'll break your legs.
I want to say something. I need to get an apology out, right at the beginning of I've been saying Jav Master for the last 500 years, and Javier would know that if he watched my videos, but it is what it is, I guess.
Yes, I think I must confess I've said Jav Master a couple of times as well.
What? Hey, I've done almost as bad. I sent Javier a message. Gosh, what was it, a couple weeks ago, Javier? I sent you a message and I spelled your name with an H.
Yeah.
Joe, you got to remember in Greek, Jehovah starts with an I.
Okay.
That's it.
So, I confused poor Ron the other day when I was on Macyak, and I referred to myself as Bruce from Branchus Creations, and he suddenly thought that he'd been saying it wrong all the time.
I know. I've been saying it wrong this whole time. I've been saying Branchus.
Oh, wow.
It's just because everyone says it wrong, so every now and again I just say it wrong as a bit of fun. So.
Have Meister.
Hate Meister. Got it.
Yeah. So, again, we've got Bruce with Branchus Creations here. We wanted to have a repair awesome sauce on the channel, and we invited Bruce, and he's like, yeah, sure, I'll come by and join the party. So he is here with us tonight, and hopefully we'll be able to grab some questions from you guys in the chat that we can throw at Bruce, and also get his thoughts and opinions on repairing some of these old machines, and maybe some of the background on how he got into doing this stuff, and maybe share some of that insight and experience with everybody.
Absolutely, we'd be very happy to.
Cool. So let's talk a little bit. So Bruce, tell everybody here on the chat probably knows who you are, but why don't you give everybody a quick background of who you are, where you're from, what you're doing, and how you got into this crazy.
Sure, absolutely. So yes, as I say, my name is Bruce Rayne. A YouTube channel, Branchus Creations, which is it's the name of the business that I have, and I by day am a PHP web developer, and I'm familiar with this process in StreamYard. There we go. I've been working professionally with Macintosh since I was 17, something like that. And So Macs have always been a very big part of my life, and I started working with Macs back in the beige days, you know, SE30s and SEs and 2CIs and all that sort of stuff. A friend of mine whose dad worked at Apple, and so he got hold of a Macintosh back in the early days, and so I was using sort of Mac Paint in, I guess, about 84, 85, something like that. So Macs have always had a really big place in my heart, and essentially the road to the repairs started when so I had some old computers, and I'd gotten rid of some old computers. I had kind of lost the bug, and then the bug kind of came back, and I got hold of an SE30, and I brought the SE30 home, went to go do a video on it. I thought, I'm going to do a little bit of YouTube video on it. I had this YouTube channel with hardly anything on it. And I started pulling apart the SE30, and I was narrating it as I was going, okay, this, and it has 68030 CPU, blah, blah, blah. I'm explaining the whole thing, doing this little kind of walkthrough dismantling of the SE30. While I was pulling it apart, a capacitor fell off. Just plonk onto the table as I was pulling it out. And I'm I'm in the middle of recording this thing, and I'm like, and that video never got released, because at that point I paused it, I stopped it, and then started investigating, and I did a little bit of research on it, and a few people saying, okay, you're going to need to recap it. And I bought a kit of capacitors, and I went and recapped it and fixed it, got the sound working on it again. It was all great, and I was very, very pleased with that. And it kind of it spawned this this interest again, and then I then just again by pure chance I bought a MacBook Pro, a 17-inch MacBook Pro, the old Core 2 Duo 3 gigahertz model, and it didn't work. I got it for really, really cheap, and it was broken. And I started looking around to see if anyone had any tips on repairing these things, and I saw Lewis Rossman's videos, and he actually had a video of exactly what the fault of this thing was and exactly how to fix it. And that then just took me on this kind of repair journey where I started going in and fixing these things, and then I went and got a better soldering iron, and then I went and got the microscope, and then I got the hot air station, and and it just built up and built up and built up and built up. And I was doing all this stuff repairing, modern-ish Mac laptops, and then I then had, going back into the vintage stuff. People started saying, "Oh, does anyone know who can recap these?" And I thought, well, I think given the fact that I work on the modern ones, it should be a pretty easy thing for me to go in and do some recapping on these old computers. And there was a definite niche there. There were a lot of people looking to get their things recapped, and so that was pretty much it. That's kind of the whole journey. It's still a part-time pursuit. I mean, it's not, this isn't my sort of full-time job. I'm still programming in the daytime, but that's pretty much how it happened. And then, of course, the YouTube channel then happened. I started recording myself for some unknown reason. I just, again, looking at the Rossman side of things, I just started, I thought, what, I'm going to record this stuff as I go, and did a few videos, a few repair videos and stuff like that. And then people just started enjoying it, watching it, and subscribing and all that. Never, Steve, never. Absolutely never. Look, I mean, that 840 AV, which of course is an ongoing sort of misery for Steve. 840 AVs are awful to work on. I mean, they really are. If you get hold of one that's in pretty good condition and all it needs is a recap, that's great. If it has any other problems, those the black board with all the black traces, and they're really, really thin, and the point where the trace has UV mask on it, and then once the little bit of copper gets exposed where there's a pad, those traces are so thin and they're so easy to damage, and I really, really hate working on them. So yes, no thank you. I will replace the caps on the 840 AV if it still doesn't work. Bad luck. So
I think it's really interesting too that you've decided to go down this route there, Bruce, because you've actually created a huge resource for the vintage Mac repair community. A lot of people out there, including myself, when we need to repair a vintage Mac, we go to your website to get your guides that you've meticulously put together, so we know where the capacitors go in both logic boards and analog boards. So thank you for making our job.
Oh, you're most welcome. I mean, that was something that was created out of necessity. Essentially, what happened was when working on these things, I kept on trying to find high resolution images of logic boards or motherboards, depending on which part, what you're interested in. So I'd go, I don't know, Macintosh 2CX logic board, and I do a search, and they're just these cruddy, awful photos with terrible lighting, and I wanting to have nice, clear, high-res photos. So then I thought to myself, well, I'm going to start taking clear, high-res photos of the stuff that I get, and then I'm going to start making it available so that other people have nice, high-res images that they can take advantage of. So I actually spend quite a lot of time getting. I use proper lights and everything like that, and I set them all up, and I take lots and lots and lots of photos, and I make sure that I can zoom in and see all the little letters on the chips and all that sort of stuff, because I want to make sure that it's it is a good information resource. And then of course turning those into a recapping guide was the next logical step. So so that's that. As I say, that was mainly for myself more than anything, but then just sort of sharing that work with other people.
Hey, Bruce, over in the chat, I heard that. Eric Miller was asking, what type of programming do you do again?
The PHP web program. So I'm predominantly a PHP and JavaScript web developer. So I create mainly, sort of custom stuff. I create tools for, let's just say for argument's sake, someone has a website and they want to integrate something functional into it. I do something like that, or I build. So at the moment, I'm doing quite a lot of work with loyalty programs, like when you sign up for a membership, and then every time you make a purchase, you earn some points, and then you can redeem those points. I'm doing a lot of work with that at the moment as well. If anyone happens to just be searching around on the interwebs, I've got a website called certificatemagic.com. Desperately needs an update, but that was one of my little things that I created, and it's where you go in there and you choose a design for a certificate, and then you put your name in and what the award is for, and then it pumps out a little PDF that you can then print out and give to people. And it's used a lot by schools, teachers printing out little awards for students and stuff like that. I always see website use go right up just to like at the end of the year and stuff like that. So that's one of the things I created. I also created a website called imposeonline.com, which is a printer's imposition tool that you upload a PDF, and then you select the printer's imposition for people who aren't aware of the print trade, because I was in it for quite a while. When they print magazines and stuff like that, they print lots and lots and lots of pages up on a really big sheet of paper, and then they sort of fold them over and cut them to make the assembly of them much easier. And this is a tool that allows you to actually lay out all those pages in a fashion that it can then all just be folded up and turned into a book or a magazine. So
I've got some experience with printer imposition. It's like people all the time bring me like a flash drive that's got like a 300-page PDF file, and they're like, hey, can you print this? And I'm like come on, like just buy a printer. Like, yes. What an imposition.
Yeah. Oh dear, good on you,
Bruce. Getting back to your pictures, is this camera good enough?
Yeah.
That's an old brownie Hawkeye, man. This is
you'll need to get the flash bulb in there, because you'll want to use the flash for that. Yeah. If anyone who is interested, I use a Canon Eos 7D. So for anyone who has photographic interest, that's what I use to shoot I use a sort of a fixed lens, because you just get less chromatic aberrations on the image. I think I either use a 28 or a 50mm lens, I can't remember, just to get nice high res pickies, and then I've gradually been making the recapping guides look a little bit better as time goes on. So if you're looking at the more recent ones, they are much prettier than the old ones.
I guess that'd be good.
I'm sorry. I was going to say, can I interrupt for a real quick second? Rudy, have you ever been the wonderful receiver on the receiving end of one of those flash bulbs?
Yes.
Yeah, like from 20 feet away.
Yes.
Yeah, it feels like the surface of the sun.
This is my first camera I've owned.
Tunk.
And when I was in, I don't know how old, about maybe 10 years old, I joined a camera club. So we would develop our own film. You take it out and all
Those are
that.
cool little cameras.
But it takes pretty good high res. It's got I put a USB port on the back. I can download. It's awesome.
And every time the developing place loses your 620 spool, you can always just 3D print a new spool.
That's right.
Anyway, sides. Anyway, back to retro. Wait, that is RetroTech. It technically counts.
It is, isn't
But there's
it?
no
Yeah.
computer inside.
No, it doesn't have to be.
I mean, I'm sure you
Still
could like
tech.
throw a Raspberry Pi in there. It's. There you go.
Oh, look, it's a Commodore 64 inside. Wow. No disk there.
But interestingly enough, with the sort of a lot of the stuff that I do, and I do obviously heavily focused on the retro computing side of things because that's what I have a passion for. The majority of the people that subscribe to my channel subscribe just for the soldering tips, the soldering guides and stuff like that. So even though I might sort of go in and do a lot of this vintage sort of vintage stuff, a lot of the people yes, there are people watching it who are interested in the vintage side of things, but a lot of people are watching it are just interested in sort of learning how to solder better, and sort of get better at doing that stuff themselves. So that's something that has I think a broader interest with a lot of people, because being able to solder is a fantastic skill to have. I mean, it just gives you the ability to do so much. So yeah,
I tell people that want to learn how to solder, you can just basically go to some, Amazon or somewhere and buy those little kits, they flash LEDs or whatever, and solder on that, practice on those things. And when it works, hey, you got something that's cool. It's fun. And you start, moving up from there and you get better and better and watch your videos.
Yeah. I mean, we have a saying at the Mac show, we say, just, practice on a PC, just doesn't matter what you do to them. I mean, you just learn to refine your craft on an old PC, and then when you're ready, then you move on to your Mac. So
Even if you break it, nothing of value was lost.
yeah, that's exactly right. But it's very true. I mean, there's some fantastic kits out there, and there are kits that are specifically designed as learning to solder kits, and so and they don't do much. They might have a few flashing lights or something like that, so it really doesn't matter. You buy a couple of them, they're usually only a few dollars each, and if you wreck the first one, you probably do a better job on the second one.
Yeah, if you wreck that first one, Joe will just send your replacement. It's no trouble, no questions asked.
Joe will fix it for you.
You just submit that RMA and don't even give it a second thought.
Yeah,
maybe a third thought.
Well, so we usually have a viewer mail section that comes up right about here. I don't think we got any emails or anything from anybody, but in future, anybody who's watching, if you do want to submit questions for us, you can throw them in the chat right now if you like, or you can email them to us ahead of time. Go over on our Twitter page. We have a link tree link-a-doodle on our Twitter thingy that you can click on to get our email address to do the thing. We're working on making that easier, but that's mostly in my wheelhouse, and I'm both lazy and overwhelmed right now. So that hasn't happened yet. But if you do have any questions, you can throw them at us. And as Ron just said, if you've got questions, well, we might have answers.
Might.
Sometimes we have answers to different questions.
Yes.
We can just mix it up. You ask us a question, we'll give you an answer to another question.
We're always giving you the right answer.
42.
That's right.
So while we're waiting for anybody to drop questions in there, let's go on and jump up to the what you're working on section. And we'll start with Bruce. Is there anything that you are working on right now that is super fun, that's outside of your everyday repair setup, or any cool project, things you're planning on, maybe an ultrasonic cleaning build video or something?
Yeah, that's right. The time is always my enemy. The list of things I have to do is very, very big. So I am I'm working on my third series in my beginner's guide to soldering, tutorials. So I've got parts 1 and parts 2 of that, and part 3 is underway at the moment, and that's a guide on surface mount soldering. And that's something that I've been getting asked for a long time. So it's it's something that really needed to happen. So that's coming out soon. I've got another review video coming out. I've been doing work with Kai Wheats with the multimeter, the Kai Wheats KM601 multimeter. And they have also sent me a bench power supply to review. And I haven't had a chance to do that yet. That will be coming up very soon. But I have to say, just at a glance, I really like the look of it. So I'll be interested to see what it's like. I'm really finicky about controls. So if I feel like an interface is a bit counterintuitive, I get really annoyed. For instance, anyone who's ever used an FX901 Hacko soldering iron that just has the most stupid interface for changing temperature. So I will definitely tell it as it is. So that review is coming up. But yes, of course, the one that everyone just keeps asking me for at the moment is the building your own ultrasonic cleaner video, which I have. I'm probably about halfway through. I have done a lot of work on it, but it's just turning out to be much bigger than I thought, because it's not just me building an ultrasonic cleaner. I'm explaining what an ultrasonic cleaner it is, how it works, and then of course all the challenges that I had, because I mean that thing gave me so much grief in the beginning. I mean, I had all of these problems on it. You have these ultrasonic transducers that you stick on the bottom of the sort of the stainless steel bath thing, and they just kept falling off. So I'd be in the middle of, I'd go to ultrasonic clean something, and I'd go away, and then I'd come back, and there'd be these things hanging off, and that was not good. It wasn't good for the ultrasonic cleaner, and it certainly wasn't good for cleaning things either. So anyhow, I've managed to, touch wood, sort all of those things out, and I want to sort of help everyone, if they decide they want to do the same, make sure they don't make the same mistakes that I did. So that's something coming soon. But then, of course, the other thing I've been doing, I've been welding. I bought a welder the other day and have been teaching myself how to weld. So
Is that for the Mac repairs?
Yeah, that's right. No,
we'll just weld a new trace in there. It'll be fine.
Yeah, that's right. I'd sort of I built myself a new stand for one of the cameras in my workshop. It's really sort of solid, and I'm very, very happy with that. I had it hanging on this this sort of bracket before that I extended out in length with a piece of aluminum. So when the camera was sitting on it, the camera used to wobble up and down, and now it's really nice and rigid. So happy with that. But yeah, that's probably my what I've been up to recently.
Hey, Bruce, actually out in the chat, Kai Robinson, everybody's favorite Kai Robinson, was asking, how much do you regret going down the classic Reloaded rabbit hole?
I have no regrets at all. None at all. The only regret I have is that Kai sort of graciously sent me an SE Reloaded board, which I still haven't worked on. I've bought a lot of components. I don't have all of the components, but I've bought a lot of the components, and he, of course, sent me some as well. And I haven't put that together yet. And one of the reasons for that is that I hate through-hole soldering. And of course, the SE, one of the really appealing things about the SE Reloaded board is that it is through hole, because a lot of people find surface mount soldering, a bit scary. So, so there is a definite appeal, just not for me. So I feel very bad about not having built that SE board, but the classic board has just been, it's been fun every step of the way. It really has. Even during that time when we had the board with, sort of with all the issues with it and going through and fixing them up, that for me, it was just an absolute joy. I mean, I love, fixing things up by, cutting traces and building little wires here and everything, trying to fix it up. I mean, I have a blue SCSI floating around here somewhere. I have a blue SCSI that I got accidentally sent by Eric, the version of these Gerbers with no ground on it. he accidentally deleted the entire ground plane from the design, and
I
then
hear the ground is overrated though, especially in electronics. You just want that voltage in there. You're wasting half of your effort if the electricity's coming back to you.
I know.
Take your socks off and hold on to it. That's all.
It's so much more. It's a lot more power efficient. I can tell you that. So anyhow, I built one and it didn't work. And rather than actually dismantle all the through-hole soldering, I actually went in and built a ground layer on there with using little wires and stuff like that. And for me, that's an absolute joy. I love doing that sort of stuff. So yes, I have no regrets about the classic side of things. I would still, I'm running out of parts. I'm running out of spares, but I would still love to build a classic using the all completely finished board that just works first go. I've built two so far. The first one has repairs all over it. That thing, so it's a one of a kind. So that one, you'll see that one coming up on eBay for some exorbitant price one day. And then the next one had one very small fault, but it still had to go in and cut a trace and do a little wire and stuff. And I do want to actually build one, that's just works first go sort of thing. So, and of course that's it. It's like that now. I just need to get the time and, as I say, get all the parts together to go in and build one. So, yeah. I'll stop talking now.
Why?
Well, that's pretty cool. I actually
20
didn't know
more
that
hours of video.
Yeah, that the classic one was just going, or I'm sorry, that the SE one was just going to be all through-hole components. That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything surface mount. I mean, it has PLCC chips, which of course can be surface mount soldered, but they're all in sockets, through-hole sockets on the SE. SE30, different story. SE30 is all sort of surface mount, but yeah, the old SE was all through-hole.
All surface mount except for all those 150,000 RAM sockets, but yeah.
Yeah. Removing RAMs, I still have not found a good way of removing RAM sockets, even using a solder sucker desoldering tool. One of the things that makes a desoldering tool work well is decent. When you have the pin going through the hole, having enough space around the pin for the solder, for some airflow to get through to pull the solder out. So you melt it and then you suck it, and that RAM slots, they kind of block the other side of the hole, which disrupts the airflow. So even with a solder sucker, trying to get a RAM socket out is an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
Especially if you're trying to get it out in one piece.
Just cut it out.
Yeah, I've done that before.
Yeah. So, Ron, what have you been working on lately?
Oh my gosh. The other night we did like a 7-hour live stream where lots of folks hopped on, and we just assembled blue scuzzies for like 7 hours, and then as people waned or ran out of equipment, just did other fun techie things. I actually was able to go through and finish up a couple of projects that I had been putting off for a while, and was able to go through and clean up a couple of machines that I was wanting to kind of work on. So it was a nice day. But right now I've been working on a bunch of shorts. I've posted a bunch of new shorts to my channel, and Bermuda shorts, yes. And I've got one that's almost done. That's basically sort of an indoor retro bright video. So that should be going up in the next day or so.
Sweet.
If anyone who wants to go back and watch that 7-hour live stream or however long it was, there's a lovely Brady Bunch moment at the end. And we had people coming off and on and off and on. I was on for a little while, and then I disappeared again. And then at the end, everyone turned up, and we had 9 people on there, and we got the perfect Brady Bunch square thing happening. It was just fantastic.
It's true. Stitch in time saves 9.
Javier, what's going on in your world, man?
Oh, don't ask. Don't ask.
Okay, fine. Rudy, you're up next.
Okay. Come on, Javier. You always got something fun going on.
Well, actually, I got those some awesome keyboard from MacFX. So I got my clear keyboard, and it's beautiful. And he also sent me a white one.
Is that for the 2C?
No, that's for the clear Apple II.
The Apple II case, yeah.
Yeah, and that's another thing. I begin to rework my clear front bezel for the drive because people are having some interest in it. So I may be able to do it. So people have completely clear drives. And another thing that I got is for my black Apple IIe, I got the white keyboard. This is funny. I'm waiting for the black one, but in the meantime, I put the white one. It works beautifully. So
I think that's a very interesting juxtaposition of color there. It makes it pop.
Yeah, it looks nice actually. Yeah, and I put the enhanced thing in white over there. I don't know if you can see it, but yeah, this is a nice machine. I don't have a. I mean, I have a motherboard, but I don't have a power supply, so I'm waiting for one. And I am also playing with 3D. I'm starting to learn 3D printing, or 3D designing. And look, that's what I did. Yeah, Joe is showing my first. That actually, it's an old design that I did a long time ago. And somebody from Canada, I got a friend from Canada, he began to make them in 3D. And I decided that there's a for the new version of the floppy emu. I wanted to, updated it. And I just did it. I don't know very much, but I went online with KiCad, and it's not that difficult. I thought it was going to be more difficult. And he just graciously, Joe printed for me, and he said that it's okay for the first time, so it works. Yeah,
little buttons and everything. Yeah, Javier sent that over to me. He's like, "Hey Joe, you want to print that out?" And I kicked it out. And it's got a few revisions that need. I mean, it's a little flexy and bendy, but that's one of the things you learn first time running 3D print is what the pushing up against the edge of what the material can do, and then figuring what my printer can do and what kind of slicing and blah 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 and all that stuff. But for a first run, this came out really, really well, and this is just in some really cheap, like super cheap white filament, but it looks beautiful. And I could see this being printed in that platinum filament to match the later, like the Apple IICs and the Apple IIes and stuff, and just look absolutely beautiful. So I think it turned out pretty well.
Yeah. And that's my intention, to make, nice looking things, not only functional, but I want it to look nice and look more like the original computer. So that's what I'm intend to do. So that's what I am, and I'm breaking things, of course,
Joe knows.
Joe knows he's getting a new package with more crap that I broke. So it's okay. Hey.
So Javier, when you're done that, are you going to be selling the case?
With the little no, I'm gonna give it away. I mean, better yet, isn't it? Or maybe Joe is gonna sell it, so he prints it and sell it for whatever he wants. No, I don't care about selling it. I just do it for fun, and if the people like it, hey, it's yours.
And that's a cool thing too. Sorry, I dropped something on the floor there. That's one of those things like people are. I don't know how to put it. People are like, Joe, can you put this on your website to sell it? I'm like, yeah, but I'm also going to just like put the file out there so people can download it, print it themselves. Yeah. I do that with most of the 3D print stuff I put up there. Yeah. Because, it's like the 3D printing part, honestly, on my end is more of a convenience that I do for folks. Mm-hmm. It costs a couple dollars to do it, but still, I don't want to all people that if you got a 3D printer and you got filament you like and you want to do it, just download the file, and I'm happy to put it up there for folks. So
I'm really good at disassociating the cost of buying filament to printing things out. There's a distance between I go and buy some filament and then it sits around and then I go and print something. So I never feel there's any association with the cost of the filament and printing things. So for me, it's almost like these things are free. So I just go in and print them out. I don't really, I bought that filament ages ago. That's just money's already spent. This is free.
Actually, in the chat, Vintage Hillbilly Shack says, well, what about us that can't afford 3D printers? And Eric has a great solution right there, which is talk to your local library or talk to your local university and see if they have a media center or they have somewhere like a prototyping lab. A lot of those places will work with the public, and for just the weight of the materials plus maybe a small setup fee, you can have those things printed, and it's probably going to be a lot cheaper than a commercial service like Shapeways or something like that. I mean, if you wanted something printed in an exotic material, Shapeways might be your only solution. You want something milled or something, but definitely check your local library, check your local even some high schools. I don't know that a high school would have a way to take payments on those type of things, but if it was something that you didn't mind to like give to a class that they could set up and just do it for the experience, nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of 3D printers. I mean, I've got a just hiding behind here a Creality. Was it end of V3? I think.
Well,
and it's I can't remember what it's called, to be honest, but it was not an expensive thing. Now, that's not to say that there aren't a lot of costs involved with it and an incredible learning curve. And I mean, even designing stuff, you go, oh man, this is fantastic. I want to start building things in 3D. There are a lot of concepts that you have to understand. The idea of like when a 3D printer is printing something in the air, it's not going to work unless there's something underneath it because it prints from the bottom up. And I actually saw someone post something on Facebook recently where they had a central column and then two things sticking out the side. And of course, it just had string hanging off the side. And it's like, why is this happening? And it's like, well, the printer can't print in space. It needs to actually have something underneath it. And so when I'm designing stuff, I'm always designing things to try and minimize the any required supports. I like to be able to print things that don't need support. So I design them in that way. And that's a learning curve, but it's a really fun thing to get into. And then you can make things like this, little mini monitors,
Yeah, nice. Nice.
Yeah, and that's part of the thing that I'm doing right now, because I don't want to bother people all the time. Hey, can you do this for me? Can you? When I have some idea, I want to do it, and then I say, oh, I'm going to ask this guy, and maybe he doesn't have any time, or he's doing something else. And I was bothering Joe actually, and hey, can you?
You weren't bothering me. Don't put it that way.
But again, it's funnier to it's more fun to learn it. So yeah, it's true. I was going to say one of the things that I may sell is this thing, the front part that I'll do, but of course I'm perfecting it right now because the door, it's a difficult task to do. So I'm redoing it. So, but it looks nice, It's
yeah, it does.
has a name and all that. So.
Beep. Anyway, sorry. So, Rudy, what's on your plate, man?
I got a couple of things. Well, it's the first is the part 2 and 3 of that Commodore VIC-20 repairs I was doing. I recorded everything, but the audio was shot. So I have to go back and kind of voice over that, and that'll be coming up soon. I'm working on this little tiny board. If it's showing up or not.
Is this a board for ants?
Yes, it's for ants, little computers that ants use that convert an RF signal into a composite. And why would I be interested in this? Because I have an Atari 600 XL, and it's the NTSC version, and I haven't found anything on the web that says, hey, you can just build this and then you have your RF to composite out. There's tons for the PAL edition, but not for the NTSC. So I built one. Joe was kind enough to actually get the gripper files together so I can get this printed, and it works great. So I'll be doing a video on that, and hopefully maybe we can sell these on Joe's site. I don't know how much it's going to cost. I think I think $350 each would be good. Joe, what do you think?
Sounds good.
That
I'll
I'm
cut you a check and meet you in Hawaii. How's that sound?
Yeah. The next thing I'm working on is on. I did a video on the Apple II Plus clone that I have. It's called Clone Compatible or Counterfeit, and I have a clone computer that I want to do all kinds of fun stuff with it. This one I'm trying to put the ROM X on it, but it's having issues because the board layout isn't the same as a 27 or series or the 93 series, so it's a little off. So I've been working with Jeff to get that going, and be some more videos come out on that. I have all kinds of cool ideas for the case and so on. And I just got my W drive yesterday, so I'm playing around with that. Another video coming out with that. But my work is this is the rough time of year until the end of April. It's quite busy, so it's really hard to get any content out there. So I'm trying to see where I can squeeze something in. That's
time. What even is time? Man.
Yeah.
For folks that saw Rudy, that's great. I'm glad you're moving along on some of those projects. I'm looking forward to seeing the kind of the end result of that repair video series. So I'm wishing you good luck and fewer hardware failures. But
well, the interesting thing, it's a friend of mine. He has over $100,000 worth of equipment in all kinds of stuff from Apple, Atari, Commodore, like you name it. He's got like almost every model you can think of. And he just comes up with his minivans, says, here, fix all this. Here's content for your video. It's like, dude, I don't have time to even fix it, let alone make a video of it. So I got boxes of this stuff. And my wife's saying, okay, you gotta get some of this stuff out because it's taking over the dining room area and the bathroom, the shower.
The bathroom? Oh my God. It's that bad.
Well, it stinks, so why not put it there, right?
Yeah. So that's really great.
People do that. I mean, I have had people come to me and say, hey, I've got this computer and you should, repair this. It would make a great video. And I'm sort of like, have I been giving off the impression that I needed material or something like that? I mean, okay, right.
Well, a lot of other stuff I did repairs for. I did an Atari, was it a 520 and a 1040? I didn't do a video on that because it was a keyboard repair. There's about 1 billion screws in those things, and it takes you like 6 hours to take the screws off. Yeah. So I said, who's going to watch a 6-hour video? So I didn't bother. But yeah,
just ask Steve's stream patrons, man. 10, 12, 17 hours,
nothing.
I always feel bad going into those streams and leaving after a couple of hours. I was like, I gotta go. I gotta get things done.
Got stuff going on at my house. I gotta do some laundry. Dang. In chat up there, Rich Bright was asking, and Javier answered in chat, but just for everybody else at home that might just be watching, asked about the front case or front panel on your Apple II drive, like whether that was something that you spun out of your body using spinnerets, or if that was potentially like laser cut.
Yeah, it is laser cut acrylic. It's the same material as the one from Mac Effect. So the only thing is that they laser etched the name, and I actually laser etched the Apple, but also put one on top of it. But
that's really cool. Color laser.
Yeah.
But it's still a little bit bad, you put some kind of there's a glue for acrylic, and when you glue it gets like
cloudy.
Yeah, cloudy and ugly. So I mean, it's not perfect, but from afar it looks very nice. Mm-hmm. Very, very nice.
I'm that way too.
Very
Joe, what have you been working on?
Yeah, Joe.
Too much and not enough. Oh my gosh.
Joe, have you just like decided to like spin up some prototypes for like a one-off card for a machine from like 90 years ago?
Yeah, pretty much. It's been a
Very
friggin'
cool.
nightmare around here lately, but a great one, actually. I've had so many things going on. First off, I became a Blue Scuzzy seller. That was a new thing.
You know what though? It's better times are coming, Joe. You don't have to be depressed. It's not you don't have to, this blueness will pass. and it'll just be
I just,
sunny days.
I just need to. Hey, all I have to do is get approval to call them red SCSI, print them, and get them done in red with red filament, and I'll be bright as rain. Maybe pink SCSI.
Sure. Yeah, I like that too.
But yeah, I started doing the blue SCSIs. Speaking on about those, gosh, see, my brain is fried. Can you tell?
Word making is hard.
Just burned. Prototypes, yeah. So I designed that little prototype board for Rudy. He's testing out, and we found out that I designed it backwards. But then I spun a new design so that it's correct. I've been, doing little projects for Javier. The big thing, if I can, well, it's back there on the floor, is I've been designing and working at what's the phrase for it? The 512K memory card for the
2200.
Franklin 2200. Yes, thank you. Yeah, brain gone. Brain. It's I can't even speak.
Well, I got the original, the first one you did, and it works very well. So
yeah. We were able to acquire one, and I got that done. And I've talked about that several times, but that's been taking up a lot of my background time. I'm working on designing a replacement for that that uses only 4 memory chips instead of 16 to get the cost down. Because whether you're getting the larger memory chips that have more capacity, or the older, smaller ones with less capacity, the cost per chip is identical when you go out and to buy them off of these vintage sources. So it just makes sense to just use the smaller chips, get the price down. And for all of those folks out there who have those Franklins that don't have that board in it, like, oh, we have 64K, I want to run AppleWorks on it or whatever.
Yeah,
I'm your Huckleberry eventually.
Yeah.
So
Get
that's
that Mega RAM. You can Crisis loaded on there. Be all set.
I've been begging people to make some sort of funky port of Crisis for the Apple II for years, and nobody's really taken me up on it. I mean, that
remakes are
$1 million
huge these
bounty
days.
apparently is just not enough money
Yeah.
to get people interested. So yeah, but yeah, and related to that, we'll talk about that on recent gets. I got something to help me design that Franklin 2200 memory board. So yeah.
Is it a protractor?
No.
Oh, okay.
Slide rule.
Is it a
It's
drafting
chrome
table?
tractor.
Slide rule?
Slide rule too, yeah. Eric Miller asks, how is that reverse engineering series coming?
Oh, yes. So it hasn't, because I've been too flippin' busy. But I have the script written. I just have to actually sit down and do it. Luckily, I have a board that I can use now for that process so I can walk through the entire process, because long story short, there are lots of steps in this reverse engineering of identifying a board, learning how to strip the board, how to scan the board, how to get it into the software, how to use it. I'm trying to condense that down and touch all the points without getting too mired in the soup. And I need a lot of bits and pieces to do that. And it's been a while. It's going to be my next video that is in the works. It's a factor of honestly finding the time. I mean, I got people like Ron up here who's like, so you're gonna make those you're gonna make 10 of those blue SCSI boards for me, right?
Oh, PowerBook blue
like,
SCSIs. Because if there's anything I respect, Joe, it's your personal time. That's why I make the demands I do.
I think
you've got jokers like Javier up here who's like sending me like 15 broken boards. He's like, Joe, can you fix it for me? I'm like, yeah.
It's not material for your
Put some
video.
cool stuff in the box for me.
it's material for your videos. Yes.
Joe, can you show me how to put these Molex connections together?
Dude, that looks like a neurological problem. I think you're going to see a doctor, not an electronics guy.
Listen, this is my IT hand, but then fortunately, this is my Molex connecting hand. So
that's all.
Raka.
Too much and not enough. So, recent gets. I'm going to go ahead and start on recent gets, since it's a good segue from the Franklin 2200. So, folks in the Franklin 2200 community are like, we need this reverse engineered. Javier connected me with people because Javier is the people connector, and I made that board. But the thing about that is, if I wanted to test any versions of this board, changes to it, updates, I have to spin a board, check it visually, put it together, and ship it to Javier or somebody else who has one of these computers in order to do it. Well, a couple weeks ago, somebody in the Franklin Ace group is like, so there's this awesome Franklin Ace 2200 decked out to the gills with all of the parts, including that 512 board, for sale, and it's going for a steal right now. And on top of all that, it has the keyboard that they never have. You can almost never find those with the keyboard, and it had the keyboard. And here's the upside. It was an hour away from me. And so I pleaded with everybody in the group. So, yeah, I'm not telling you not to bid against me, but don't bid against me because I can drive up there in an afternoon and go get it. And so they were all nice to me, and I ended up getting it for about, 40% of the cost they normally go for.
Wow.
Yeah,
nice.
I got
Good
it
for
for
you.
steal. And it's
better than me. Yeah.
sitting on the floor down there in pieces because I've been working on it because it's broken. But yeah, it's got some sort of random memory problem that's actually on the board itself. And I don't know what it's one of the chips is busted. I don't know. I'm probably gonna have to depopulate the whole gosh darn board and replace all the chips to find it because I've been using this oscilloscope on it. I've spent 8 or 9 hours trying to figure out all of the signals look good. All the levels are good. Everything's at 4.5 volts or ground. There's no jitter. There's no noise. It's just randomly, just either the onboard RAM tests or the aux board RAM test will just randomly plop a bit in the wrong direction. And it's like, well, I can't use that for testing to test a memory board if it's giving me memory failures. So yeah,
It's good that you brought that up because a lot of people ask me how do you fix the computer so fast? It's like, well, you see it when you drop it off, you pick it up, or you watch a 10, 15, 20-minute video, but behind the scenes, it might take you a couple of days. And sometimes you can't even fix it. I did a video on a Commodore 64 that was hit by lightning. The guy said, oh, please fix it. It's like, it's not worth it, but I'll give it a try.
It's also a Commodore 64. Go on eBay and get one for $20.
Yeah, it's cheaper to do that than go and pay someone. I mean,
they're actually making new Commodore 64 boards too, just like a new board.
So it's nice to that you brought that up. That sometimes some problems take literally hours and hours or days and days of banging your head and taking your oscilloscope out and soldering, desoldering, and looking at schematics, and then talking to friends, and they said, "Oh, the problem you didn't plug it in."
Yep. And sometimes you can just, if the chips are socketed, you can just yank chips out until the problem works. But sometimes you're not lucky. Like in the case of this Franklin, I'm double unlucky. One, the only chips in this entire thing that are socket are the 8 RAM chips, the CPU, and one random LS193 in the middle of the board. And their version of the WAS chip, I'll take that, their floppy controller chip. Everything else in that is soldered to the board.
Yeah.
Which chip is it? I don't know. It could be the CPU. It could be
anything.
Some random thing on the other end of the bus, randomly throwing noise onto the memory bus or the address bus, or who knows? I don't know. So yeah, it's like, how do you fix it? You yank chips until the problem goes away. Unfortunately, especially when you have a problem like this where it's intermittent. I can run my RAM test for 30 minutes and be fine, and then it'll start going and just barfing all over the place.
Yeah.
I can't sit there with the probe on the oscilloscope and just stare at it. I'll fall asleep. No. So there is no diagnostic process to that. It's almost shotgun. You throw the parts cannon at it. So yeah, do it super fast. So I saw that video on there. No, you don't.
That's why I have this.
You'll find out.
I have this Apply card.
Yeah,
an accelerator CPM card, and I got it for free. It didn't work. I had a hard time finding software. I couldn't find any schematics. So because it's so little chips, I just did the chip swap and just got it. I got it working, but it took me almost a good hour to do that. But it took me 4 or 5 hours just to look everywhere to see if I could find a documentation for it, but nothing.
Yeah. And that's the same with this Franklin. There's only one mention of the schematic anywhere on the internet, and that person made one post on one forum that disappeared.
Yep.
There's this one guy who has the full technical manual. He says he has it. That was what, 3 or 4 months ago, Javier, and then
Right.
just on. We can't
I
find this
message him, I follow him around, nothing. Yeah.
Or,
So,
or you,
yeah.
or you
you're,
find some,
making your own schematic while you go.
or you find schematics and you get them, and then you look at them and they're all fuzzy. You can't even barely read the values on
Off
them.
on the left side.
Mhm.
It's so many times I've done that.
They've been faxed somewhere.
Yeah.
Rich Bright asked a question: will you socket it when you check chips? Almost always, yeah.
Mm.
Because if I ever have to work on that thing again, it's much easier to just go
Yeah.
and yank the chip out than to try to, desolder and resolder, cause more potential damage to the board traces. And when it comes to it, like if you're working on an Apple of that era, the traces and vias are gonna be gold. You can hit them with a thermonuclear weapon and they will stay. Anything else, especially like Ataris and Commodores, you like look at them from across the room and they'll delaminate from the board.
Yep.
So the fewer times I have to, heat stress those joints, the better. Typically, when I put chips back, I'll socket it. So.
And that's something that I've noticed a lot of people doing, especially folks that troubleshoot a lot of things, like machines that have, so specifically like Commodores that have a lot of those high failure rate chips, or once you get a good one, that you now have your platform for testing all of the other ones that people want to like send to your house because they hear you're the Commodore guy.
Yeah.
And so I've seen a lot of people put in ZIF style sockets on those machines just because it just makes it simpler. It's, if you're going to test like 30 SID chips, the least amount of mechanical stress you can put on your board, the better.
So here's talking about that. Here's my Commodore. It was one of the first ones I got about 2 years ago, and it was just a mess. Anyways, I took it apart, and just exactly what Ron said is I did this to it.
Yep, ziffed it.
Yeah,
I ziffed all the main chips and one of the RAM chips for testing. But because a lot of these boards, there's no sockets. Like almost everything is soldered in except for a couple of the main chips. But if you're doing a lot of them, then this is the way to go. I mean, it's like the Apple the Apple II, the Apple IIes, for example. That's all socket. Like the 2 Plus, like even my the no name clone I have, it's all socketed, like everything. So it makes it so much easier for repairing it. But like Joe was saying, though, when stuff gets really old, I mean, the more heat you put at it, you can put more and more stress on it. And next thing you know, you're not fixing that one problem. You're fixing traces. You're fixing other chips now that are shorted out. Like it becomes a nightmare. So I agree with Joe. When I pull out a chip, there's no socket's going to go in and I put it back in.
Yep.
Now, if I can only find a socket that would give me more hair back, it's a different story. But
well, they have that. They're called hair plugs. There's it's a million ziffs all over the top of your head.
So you can just change the color whenever you like.
So, what's your most recent cool toy there, Rudy?
Recent cool toy. I did talk about my RF modulator, which I'm hoping I'm going to be testing this on a what's it called, a Coco 2, and I'll be testing on a what's it called, the Timex Sinclair 1000. I'll probably test it out in my Atari 2600. I want to see if it's versatile to use for anybody who wants to have a system that doesn't have a proper composite that you can plug it in. One of the other things I just got, it's not that new, but it's this. So basically, it's a riser card. You plug this card into your 2 Plus or your 2E, and then this one plugs into the slot, and this one comes out, so you can actually plug your card in outside the computer. You can actually plug the card in.
Ah, that's awesome.
And
So
you can lay the card down on your table so that you can actually work out, as opposed to working out like this and trying to get the probes in. And so it makes things a lot easier. And it was fairly cheap. I bought it on eBay, but it's so
send
far.
me that link. I need one of those for reasons.
The only thing I wish the cable was longer, so I would be making a longer cable. But other
Just
than
a
that,
SCSI cable. It's 50-pin cable.
yeah, it's really a good tool for if you're doing a lot of card repairs. Like I do a lot of 2Ps and 2 Plus card repairs, and that just makes it so much easier.
I wonder if something like that would work with like the Laser 128, because that does have a side,
It's got
you know,
slots.
sort of
Yeah.
a horizontal slot.
Right. So if you plug a card in there, you can actually work on the card. You can
Mhm.
take measurements. You can stick your your multimeter or your oscilloscope on there and do all kinds of stuff. But when the card's sitting in a computer and you gotta go sideways and
Mhm.
you don't get the proper lighting, it's kind of a nightmare. I'll send you the link, Joe.
Yeah, please
Cool.
share the link.
Actually, I might. This might be a good one to reverse engineer.
Mm-hmm.
It's really not much to it.
Yeah. Especially things that are coming out of countries where right now it's tough to get things shipped and stuff. It's probably good, some of those projects, to kind of be inspired by those, but make your own kind of product, you know?
I may have been doing some reverse engineering lately.
Oh, yeah, that's that thing. That thing with the deal.
The thing with the deal, man.
Nice.
I finally got here.
Nice. All the way from Hong Kong.
Yes, sir. That's the mum's the word. We'll mention that later. If you, Ron, what's going on in your world? What's your cool toy?
Oh my gosh, guys! After assembling some blue scuzzies, that was kind of a fun project, which I was kind of like very nervous about doing. I'm actually assembling one of the things that I was going to kind of share with folks here real fast, assuming I can remember how a screwdriver works, which it's looking bad. It's looking bad. I did a shorts video just yesterday about something that I've been kind of looking on, and people had kind of talked about and warned me against, but I thought, hey, might as well buy one. These, oops, sorry, I guess label out, right? These King Spec IDE SSD drives.
Yes.
And I keep seeing these advertised, so you can look there. I keep seeing these advertised, and I keep seeing people like, oh, I picked it up for my laptop, my DOS laptop or something like that. Oh, it works great and everything's wonderful. And if you look at the price on these versus you look at some of the stuff you can get on Amazon, where it's like, you know, just a MSATA SSD and like the generic Chinese made, you know, sort of adapter that takes PATA to, you know, MSATA. Really all that's inside these guys, they come apart really easy, and it's kind of, if you know what you're looking for, you see these 6 sort of things, so you kind of know, like, no, everybody was kind of like, well, we don't know what's inside. It could just be a SD card or it could be a compact flash or something like that. So I bought one, and really all that's in it is that exact same generic Chinese IDE to MSATA adapter board, the same one that everybody kind of recommends you buy.
Yes.
But the actual MSATA drive on here, just kind of a generic one. Just, you know, but this could be had kind of through eBay sellers for more or less the same price as those other ones, where I know that Sean from Action Retro and Steve from Mac 84 were kind of like, oh yeah, like buy these other ones. That's the ones we've bought. And that was probably the thing to do. But I wanted to buy one of these so I could finally definitively say, because they never show you the back in any of the auctions, any of the stuff. They never show you the back. They just show you the drive.
Yeah.
So we now know for sure that it's the same thing that everybody else is getting and building. But you know, just a generic part inside. And if you take the MSATA board off, there's nothing written on the back of any kind of interest. But if you do want to see more about it, I've got a video about it on my channel now. So
cool.
Yeah,
that
was
the big thing I kind of did this week.
I like the video. I saw it. It's like, oh, that was interesting.
Yeah,
that was an interesting video. Yeah.
Thank you.
I had that same
I like
thought.
the way you said it though when we talked in person. You were like, Ron, that was an interesting video. This video was so interesting.
What I had a gripe about was your live stream. I put the reminder on and it didn't remind me. It's like, what's going on? I missed the video.
Yeah, it's for the best.
Yeah.
It's for the best.
Boring live stream, and then you'll find them.
Yeah, you just got to use the right search criteria.
Right.
So Javier, what cool new toy did you get lately?
That's it. The
You already
He shot his wad, Joe.
so you mixed what you're working on with recent gets, huh? Is that what you're saying? So we'll go back to our wonderful guest, Bruce, because we need to ask him what his recent cool toy he's been working on lately, and then segue into tips and tricks on board level repair.
Okay. I've the couple of things I've picked up recently. Another Macintosh 2VX. Why does anyone need 3 2VXs? Well, they don't. But this one just came up very cheap, and I was just like, well, I can't. I've got to buy it. I mean, I can't just let it go. I can't, So I got another 2VX, which of course is definitely one of Apple's finest computers that you'll ever find.
It's no 2VI, but
yeah, that's right. So the 2VI, I don't think was ever released in the US, but it was sold here in Australia, and it is a scaled down version of the scaled down 2VX. So it's rubbish, but I have one of them as well because you've got to have them in the collection, of course.
got to catch them all.
Yeah, for sure. So that's probably my most recent acquisition. But I've also kind of had an old acquisition come back into light, and it was part of sort of a live stream that I did. Javier joined, where I got a joystick sent to me to do some work on, and it was an old Apple joystick, and I pulled it apart, and the guy he was having problems with the button, and so he sent me replacement buttons. And I did replace them, but that wasn't really what the fault was. The fault was that there were wires that were not soldered inside. So soldered them, put some new wires in, made it all work. And then I was like, well, I'd really like to be able to test this. The only Apple II device that I have is an old Apple IIc. I got 2 of them, one working, one not working. And so I pulled out that old Apple IIc that's been sitting there for I don't know how long. And it didn't work, but it did work after ultrasonic cleaning. So it's it's going now, and I was able to get it out and play some games. And I just had that. This is the first time I've ever used an Apple II device with a floppy EMU. So I've had the floppy EMU that I use for my 128K, 512K, and Mac Plus, but I had never used it. I'd never used it on an Apple II device, and so I got it all set up. I downloaded a few images of some of the games that I used to play when I was younger, and I just plonked them on there, and it was just so easy. And I thought, this is wonderful. I've actually got to get this happening again. I'm going to clean it all up and sort of bring it out from the workshop and have a bit of a play and play some of those old games, enjoy a little bit of nostalgia. What I really need, Joe, is someone to create a little PAL thingy. I've got the PAL version of the Apple IIc, which only outputs monochrome on the composite. And the only way you can put in color is with some sort of adaptery thingy, Rooney thingy, white thing. And I think that, okay. Can I have that, please? So, so how does it? Do you mind?
You're muted.
Javier, you're on mute.
And telling me a little bit more about that.
I don't want to talk to you. Oh, well, this is the Apple IIc BGA from Plamen, a2heaven.com. And this is the best thing you can get for the Apple IIc. It's basically, it takes the signal from the video port in the back and converts it to VGA, and also has a little button that changes colors. And actually, I got it over here, and it's integrated into my monitor. And if you click on the monitor, it goes green, it goes white, and so forth.
I am sure I went there at one stage, and they didn't have them.
Just send me a message, because he's having some issues with shortage of components, but he may have 1 or 2 of these guys. Some people have contacted him, and I
will do that, because I would really love to be able to look at these.
This is awesome. And you work with everything, with all the PAL and NTSC.
Yeah, wonderful. Okay, that's definitely what I got to do.
Yeah.
And then the only other thing that I'll just finish up very quickly with, I've been doing, a lot of 3D printing, sort of lately. Like this is a little little double battery holder for the Macintosh 2, because the Macintosh 2 originally had axial batteries in there, and normal battery holders don't fit. So I made a little 3D printed one that fits into those holes. And I recently, this is the extent of my reverse engineering. I reverse engineered the Snooper serial port.
Sorry, I just got some really interesting. I have something I want to share when you're done, Bruce. Go ahead.
Okay, no worries. So I use Snooper for doing hardware tests on computers after I've repaired them. And when it goes to the serial test, it's always like serial test failed, because you're supposed to have a little loopback plug in the back. And I was just sick and tired of getting the test failed on it. It's like I'd love to actually have do a test and have them all come up green. And so I thought, well, I'm going to try and figure this out. And it was basic, really. There's the transmit data just needs to be connected to the receive data, and the handshake in needs to be connected to the handshake out, and that's it. And I just made a couple of little plugs, and I sort of shared that on Tinker Different. So that people can make their own if they want to. So that was.
Don't forget about Tinker Different, everybody. It's where all the cool kids hang out and share all the cool
Absolutely. Tinkerdifferent.com. It is the place to be. Got to sign up today, join, share, and stuff and things.
Now, I heard that I had to have a certain level of technical expertise to be out there on that forum. Bruce,
oh my gosh, Ron. No, that's so not true. In actual fact, even novices are welcome. They can sign up, and if they have questions to ask, they can ask questions and get help from incredibly knowledgeable people. So it's not just about you being sort of like a big tech head there. You can jump on there and seek help from experts in different areas. And it's not just Mac, and it's not just PC, and it's not just 80s micros. It's everything technical. I reckon even if you went on there and asked about how to repair a washing machine, someone would probably be able to help you. Yeah.
Bruce, getting back to your joystick videos, watching your stream on the video, and those wires, did you find that they were disconnected, or were they not soldered on originally?
They did not look like they had ever had solder on them.
So it was defective when it was made.
No. Folks, the problem with those wires is that they get very hard when they're old, and they disconnect themselves. I've fixed a lot of them because of that. They kind of break. I don't know why.
I mean, the little loop that was there, you would normally expect the wire would be in the little loop, and there would be a blob of solder on there.
Right.
And, assuming, of course, the solder bonded correctly, you would imagine that if it broke, you would still have a little nub of solder on the end of the ring.
Yes.
That ring looked like it had never had solder on it. So that suggests to me that if it did have solder on it, there was no heat applied, that they didn't ever get the solder to properly bond onto the little loop.
Yeah, I found a problem like that. I purchased 10 Atari joysticks for $5. They were basically brand new. Looks like they were never used, and they don't work. And when I opened them up, I found the same thing, that the wires were there, but looks like when they made them, they never soldered them, or they forgot, or what happened. But there was, like you said, there was no solder over the loop. So that's what I was
This is
asking.
why I never buy a key or a joystick made on a Monday or a Friday.
That's right. Never.
I mean, look, it was an easy thing to fix, and the truth is that the new buttons that I put in, which were not the fault, but the new buttons I put in were really good. They're really sort of quick and responsive. So I think that it wasn't like a wasted repair or anything like that. I mean, it was good to actually give it some new buttons as well.
Nice. So, Joe, what's your news?
Oh, I got a random message from Mark Josatis of Mac Effects. He went to he had the opportunity to go to a conference or something where Steve Wozniak was talking.
Oh.
And he sent this message, and I'll see if I can share this properly. Stand by. I have to click some buttons.
Clickety-click.
I want to click that.
Clickety-click, Barbara Trick.
Yeah.
Oh,
he showed one of his fully clear Apple IIe's
nice.
to Mr. Wozniak there, and he gave it to Mr. Wozniak.
Oh, wow.
He's now the owner.
Good for him.
That's good, because I heard that he's kind of fallen on some hard financial times. There's no way he could have afforded to buy something
Yeah.
for himself.
Or what?
He needs to set up like a GoFundMe or something. You
Yeah.
know?
I'll chip in.
My jet needs new tires, something. I don't know. But I am kind of concerned that guy has I'm just really impressed. Like the digital camera that he used to have that picture taken has all the editing tools for touch-ups just built into the camera.
Just like mine.
That's amazing.
So is
tools and go.
Mark in the habit of giving away Apple IIes? Because I'd really like one. I don't have a 2E. I used to have a 2E when I was younger, but I don't have one now. So just putting it out there.
I was talking to some people and I said I've got some extra empty 2E cases that I need to get rid of. And I asked Mark, do you need one? He's like, no, I got him out my ears. So
I'm glad he said ears.
Well, Bruce, once I hit 500 subscribers, I'll be giving away an Apple IIe.
Oh, okay. And shipping to Australia, of course. Yes,
no, shipping
included
is
in
your
the price.
own.
Included in the price.
Yeah,
Included in the price. Shipping to Australia, included in the price.
I'll ship it worldwide as long as you pay, no problem. It'll come in a big container. We'll just drop it in front of your house, and it's full of the packing bubble so it doesn't get damaged.
Yeah, perfect.
Once I hit 500 subscribers, I have it ready to go. It's going to be a 2E for the lucky winner. It could be you.
Yeah. Well, I'll give it a go. I would like to win it. I used to the one we used to have at home. It was the Apple IIe. I can't remember if it was the one with a numeric keypad or not. I wish I could remember, but it had the little Duo drive. And we had the green screen, that has that little pivoty, swivelly thingy. The green screen monitor. Yeah, that's right. And obviously had the 80 column card. And of course, the one thing I always remember from these is the little switch on the bottom that if you switched it, it changed the hash key into a pound sign or something like that. Like that. It's like, isn't that just the most bizarre hardware configuration on a switch on the outside? But and we then ended up getting a thing called, I think it was called, the brand was DigiCard hard drive. So little card in it.
Yep.
And then this great big box on the outside with this DigiCard hard drive, and that just made it changed it from being kind of like a hobby computer into like a real serious thing. Just having the hard drive there, so no disk swapping or anything like that, was absolutely fantastic. I really wish I still had it. I don't.
That one had a switch on the bottom of the case.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, because I just sold one that had that, and what it was is a I'm not sure if yours was the same, but this was an English and French keyboard. So that switch on the bottom converted the keyboard to type in French or English.
Well, I'm guessing that. So the primary difference it made here on ours was that if you typed the hash, I think it was the hash, thing. When you flick the switch, it just changes on the screen into a pound sign. And then you flick it back and it changes back into a hash, and you could just flick between the two. You could have a page full of hashes, and then you just flick the switch and they all change then into pound sign. And I think probably because obviously in Australia and the link to the UK, maybe they decided that we would potentially need to have a pound sign. It'd be very important for Australians to be able to do a pound sign if we wanted to do a pound sign.
Of course.
This is like that story where like the guy was talking about, like, it was like Prince did like a concert here, and he ordered in the UK, and he ordered like 200 pounds of chicken, and people were like, wow, like Prince and his entourage like really love chicken. And then you think about monetary units, and the story is a lot less cool.
This is true.
You're like,
I should say poos.
Yeah.
It's not LB.
Right.
Yes.
It's that thing. It's that thing.
A little squilly, that little thing.
Yeah.
So, Bruce, do you have any tips and tricks on board level repair and getting into it, or even any some interesting stuff or smart little things that you can suggest to people who have been doing it for a while, but I don't know, traps for young players, things that people can know to learn to avoid problems or whatever?
Yeah, look, don't ever work on an 840 AV. That would probably be my first tip. Especially not like when when you're just starting. Don't start on an 840 AV. We've some of the stuff we said before. Obviously, it's very important to practice. Trying to get the solder to do what you want it to do before you go in and start doing some really complicated stuff. With the repair side of things, the main thing, of course, we have issues with now are capacitors failing. Capacitors are, components that have a limited lifespan. Their lifespan, and when you go to buy a capacitor, it tells you how many thousands of hours it's expected to work for, sort of at its running temperature. So capacitors fail. It's not like sort of Apple did anything wrong or anything like that, or any of these manufacturers did something wrong. These components just fail. And so that's one of the more common things that is happening in the world of repair, is replacing capacitors. Doesn't always fix the problem, but it often does. And one of the questions I do regularly get asked is, I've got this computer, it doesn't work, and I've recapped it and it still doesn't work. What do I do now? And that's a really sort of common question that I get hit with. And I've kind of got one fairly standard answer to that. I always say is check your work. Check what you have done, check what you've gone in and you've replaced the capacitors. I mean, I don't know what the level of expertise is. A lot of these people, when they ask me, this could be the first time they've ever held a soldering iron, or they might have been doing it for years. I've got no idea. But I always just say, check your work. I mean, I get stuff sent to me that has been recapped, and they say, it's not working, can you try and fix this? I recapped it, but it's not working, can you try and fix it? And I get it, and I find a capacitor around the wrong way. Now, you don't need to be an electronics whiz to check to see that all the capacitors are around the right way. That can just be something that anyone can do with any level of expertise, and go in and see that you've actually put the capacitors all in the right way around. So check your work is the most important thing I would say to anyone, doing those sorts of repairs. If they've gone in and done something, go back, have a look. Have you accidentally created a bridge somewhere with, just accidentally with your soldering iron, you've bridged two pins together? So on things like the vintage Macs that have like the 030 chip, a lot of them have those tiny little pins coming out the side of them, and they can just get bumped, and you can just create a bridge when one pin just gets bent to touch the other one. Mm-hmm. So check for things like that. Check to see whether you might have bumped the pin into the other one. Check for solder balls. I mean, if you've soldered something, a little solder ball has popped out and wedged in between two pins. It's really important to sort of go in and have a good close look at this stuff and make sure that it isn't something that you have done. I mean, the best one, the one that I always love when someone asks me this, it's just such an easy answer, is this worked, I've recapped it, and now it doesn't work anymore. And it's like, well, you've pretty much told me what the problem is. So go back and have a look. Ron, did I see you raise your hand there for a second? Were you?
Oh no, I was agreeing. The solder balls. People don't think about that. So magnification, even just basic magnification.
Yep, I would agree with that. I mean, the microscope has become the most important thing in the workshop. I can solder with a $10 soldering iron if I need to. I don't want to, but I can if I need to. I can use a $50 hot air station. But the microscope is so important. And, not everyone is going to have the budget to get that sort of microscope, but even just some form of magnification, even just those goggly things that that Ron had there, or was it Ron or Joe? Someone had them. Those
got good stuff. I got crap stuff.
Yeah, things like that. I mean, they're fantastic, and lots of light, ample light really helps. So check your work. Then, of course, the other thing is missing components, especially with some of the vintage stuff. Some people get a little bit heavy-handed with it. I had there's a guy quite well known in the Australian vintage computer community, and I've forgotten his name, but He's that well known. He's that well known. But he sent me this board, and he Jeremy Barhide. My apologies. My apologies to Jeremy if he's watching, and I'm sure he's not. He sent me this board. He said, "Look, it's a Color Classic board." He put it up on Facebook, and I said, "Yeah, I'll grab it." And he said, "It doesn't work. I've tried to have a go at fixing it, and I can't get it to work." I said, "Yeah, I'll grab it," because it was for free. All I had to do was pay for the postage, send it to me, and cleaned up anything that looked damaged on it. Still didn't work. Flipped it over, component missing off the back. Someone had just bumped it and just knocked a little capacitor off the back, and that was enough to do it. I replaced that capacitor with a new one, and away she went. So yeah, I mean, look for the obvious stuff first. That's what I would recommend. And then if none of that works, you're stuffed. Give up on it. Throw it away.
And let it go.
send it to Bruce or me, right?
Have a glass of wine.
Look, there are certain computers that have common failings. I mean, if you're talking about, say, something like a Color Classic, I would be saying, oh, look, you've probably got a problem with the sound chip. It might be stuck, because there's like a reset signal, I think, in the sound chip, and that might be, you might be stuck in a reset. There's things like the egret chip. There are known areas on that have problems with, vias failing. I guess probably just manufacturing faults that cause that. So, certain computers have certain areas that I just hone straight in on, like the old SE30. I mean, when they come these days, I mean, I know straight away where to look. The places to look if the thing's not working. So,
upper left, lower right.
Yeah, I mean, I have tips. Yes, yeah, you're exactly right. Upper left and lower right. Yeah, depending which way you hold the board. They're So when it comes to like sort of tips, some of the tips then start to get more specific to certain boards. And although I am a little bit slack in doing this at the moment, it is my intention to start pointing some of these out on the Recapper Mac website. So when you go to a particular model and you've got a recapping guide, I'm wanting to try and start providing information about the common failings of specific boards, because some of them you go in a particular area. One of the things that happens quite regularly with, say, a Macintosh Plus or a 512K or even a 128K, but not as often. People often say to me, "Yeah, okay, I've got this Macintosh 512K or Macintosh Plus, and it doesn't switch on." And people put that on the forum, and the first thing people come in and say, "Recap it." And of course, I'm just like, well, okay, if we're talking about an SE30, sure, a Macintosh Classic or a Classic 2, yeah, that's what I would say. But I wouldn't say that with a Mac Plus. If someone's having trouble switching it on, I would be much more inclined to check for cracked solder joints on the analog board. Almost all of those computers of that vintage will have cracked solder joints on the analog board, and just fixing those up could well be enough to get it working again. They are more likely to have failure in some of the resistors and the diodes in the power supply than they are with their capacitors. And that's not to say if you're going to go in and restore it, go in and replace all the caps, sure, go and do it. But those sorts of computers have very different failings to something like a Classic or a Classic 2 or an SE30. So yeah, I'm going to be trying to add more little tips and tricks to the website as I go. So to help people out if they get stuck. Are you going to add Performer 630 series to your site? Not if I can help it. I do have a 630, and I think I even have made a recapping guide for it, but I just don't think I've put it up yet. So I don't have the same hatred for the 630 that some people do. A lot of people really slam the 630, but it's, yeah, I mean, play a bit of Civilization on it or whatever. It's good fun, so I'm fine with this. But don't drop them. I dropped mine. I actually dropped my 630 from a height, and it is now, the case is now just little pieces of
confetti.
Plastic. Yeah. So don't do that.
I think the 630 gets a bad rap because of the power supply, which would be great if you could just do like a drop-in replacement or something, but it has that, like there's an area of the board that has like soft power stuff, and I've seen people like work and do replacements on all that, and they'll drop 12 volts to to ground right there, and then their motherboard. That's it.
Well,
you let out the magic smoke and it's over.
On the bright side, those 630 boards work in a lot of cases. In a lot of chassis, you can drop them into a LC 580, or you can. So if you have problems with the rest of it, just grab that Logic board and just chuck it or something.
Might even be considered to be an upgrade to put that Quadra 630 board into a Power Macintosh 6200. You can't go anywhere but up on those.
Oh, I'll tell you, people love to hate on the early Power PCs, don't they? I mean, no one really has anything nice to say about the 601 CPU. So
I have a lot of fond memories of that time. I have a 6100. I actually had the choice between putting my Quadra 610 in storage or my 6100 in storage, and I kept the 6100 out just because it's kind of it's got that amazing iguana flag like little Easter egg thing. You can't do that on a Quadra 610. Come on.
No, exactly. Actually, that is a really good thing. You mentioning that just made me think of something. For the people who collect stuff, what stays in the house and what goes into storage? Sort of like which models do you like to have close by, and which ones you don't want to sell them, you don't want to get rid of them, but they don't need to be in the house.
Just buy a bigger house and have everything out.
Right.
I can't. I've got the fiber here. I can't go anywhere.
Right, get the fiber optic. That's right.
I'm locked in. Just put a second story on, Bruce. There you go.
I can
just
do
go
that,
up if you can't go out.
Just build a building in your backyard.
Yeah, I mean, I've already got 3 sheds in the backyard, but I am planning to make one of them a bit bigger. So that's the plan. Yeah.
Use the bathroom.
Eric says use the bathroom.
It's too small. It's too small. There's no room in the bathroom.
I would say for me, just to be safe on the Apple II stuff, I make sure that I keep a ROM 1 2GS, a ROM 3 2GS, a 2C, and a Apple IIe Enhanced. Just make sure you got those on hand at all times. Cover all bases on your Apple II stuff. And then if the floor over there is to be believed, every Mac that was ever made.
Yes, that's right. Even the performers.
Like 6200s, I got a leaky spot in the basement. You wouldn't believe what you can put on top of those machines to keep stuff dry. It's nuts.
And put some in a duffel bag, so if you have to bug out for whatever reason, just grab it and go.
I know. You got to keep the high dollar ones. Yeah.
You guys are trashing on those little performers, but my little 410 up here, that's what I print all of my Blue SCSI instructions off of, man.
That's an
what I test
LC2
all of them
though
on?
at heart.
Yeah, that doesn't count because that is actually an LC2. Okay, so we can just stop calling it a performer right now. Oh dear.
Cool. Well, that was super fun. I think we've come to the point where in our little wonderful get together here where we start to promote all the cool things that we do. And we're going to start with Bruce. Tell everybody how to find you and all the cool things that you're doing. Your website, you're selling a whole bunch of SCSI stuff and your YouTube page and all.
Bruce, he's underselling it. This segment is called Shameless
That's right.
Promotion. So I mean, just be as
great.
gaudy.
And get it
Like,
out.
Yeah, you would not believe how cool everything that I'm doing is at the moment. So, okay, so recapamac.com.au. I think it works with .com as well, but stick an AU on there just for the sake of it. And on that website, you will find my recapping guides. You will also find information about the equipment that I use. And there's a contact form if you want to contact me. I probably won't get back to you, but you can do it anyway. I mean, I came to the realization relatively recently that if I was to respond to every message that ever got sent to me, it would be my full-time job. I just cannot get back to everyone. I get back because people just ask me questions like, hey, I've got this. I've got a. They ask me stuff about things I've never even worked on the show. I mean, it's like I've got like a PlayStation. Can you tell me how I can fix it? So yeah, I've the website there. You can contact me. I also have an online store there that is only for Australians. I'm sorry, folks. So that's where you can go in and buy Blue SCSIs and SCSI 2SD. and various other bits and pieces, and I will be adding more stuff to that soon as well. I've got other things that are coming out. I do quite a lot of little 3D sort of modeling design stuff for the vintage world, and I was planning to put that all up on to Thingiverse, but I have recently decided that what I will be doing is I will be releasing all of my designs exclusively on Tinker Different. So there is a 3D printing section on Tinker Different, and I will be gradually adding all of the things that I have made on there. So that includes some of the replacement feet for some old keyboards. It's little clips for RAM sims when the plastic bits break on the old computers. The battery holders. I've got my little Macintosh Plus replacement battery that allows you to open it up and put in a couple of three LR44 batteries in there, and then replace the Mac Plus battery with little sort of watch battery type things. I got all sorts of bits and pieces, and I will gradually be adding them all to Tinker Different so people can download them and use them. And then yes, of course, the channel, Branchus Creations. Sort of check it out if you haven't. I've got some pre-recorded stuff, and I've got more coming, but I also do a regular live stream, and I invite people to come on and get in the chat. And it's all nice and social like this, where sort of all nice, like to keep it all nice and light and fun. And I sometimes have little sort of trivia games on there, and I talk about movies and TV shows and stuff like that. So as I always try and keep it nice and light as I'm doing that stuff. And and of course, Mac Yak, the old Mac Yak show, the weekly, which is on. It's 8 p.m. Eastern on Thursday nights, which is actually midday Friday for me. And we get together and talk about, we yak about Mac stuff and all sorts of other things as well, and nonsense and silliness. We have had two people from this group on there as guests as well. So, so there's that. And I think that's probably it in terms of me. I've always got stuff happening. I talked about a lot of that before, but I think that's enough shameless self-promotion for me.
Cool.
It was pretty shameless, though, wasn't it?
I think it's awesome. You do great work, Bruce.
Thank you.
Ron, do you and I want to share a little short shameless self-promotion real quick?
Yeah.
Because something very important is coming up here in a little less than 30 days. And I think that's called Macintosh.
Yes, Macintosh. It's the most Mackiest time of the year.
Thank you for the backup, Javier.
But who knows about Florida?
Nobody.
Florida, man. But yeah, Macintosh is coming up here soon. We're going to be doing some planning so that we can get some information out to the public as to how to participate in Macintosh in this 2022. I think the only thing we've really come up with is the hashtag is going to be Macintosh 2022. That way we can differentiate from last year's Macintosh and keep
which was Macintosh 2021 for those playing at home.
Yes. Yep. And of course, you can go to macintosh.com to find out how to participate. And very soon we will be having some cool stuff for people to find out how to get involved.
Yeah, but definitely, unlike a lot of these other events that you see kind of pop up on the YouTube calendar, like December and things like that, which in the past have been kind of a little more gatekeepery than maybe I would like. But Macintosh is very much open to anybody that wants to kind of participate. Again, like Joe was saying, if you go out to macintosh.com, there's a style guide out there. There's also information on how you can best participate. There's artwork out there. There's everything you need to kind of get started. And honestly, as long as it's kind of in the spirit of like classic Macintosh stuff, that it's definitely welcome. There's not somebody that's going to be like, nitpicking your videos, like, I don't know, I don't like, you didn't dot all your J's there. Is that a thing? But like last year, Dr. Dave for Dr. Dave's Diversions was one of the first people out of the gate, and his video was Macintosh emulation on the Amiga. So it's anything that is kind of related to that kind of classic era of Macintosh sort of fandom. You get more information on the website.
I was horrified and offended by that video. On an Amiga, indeed. Gosh.
But it was just neat. It was just showing like how the fastest Macintosh of that era was an Amiga.
Yeah.
The truth.
So, Ron, what's going on in your world? What do you want to tell people about?
Oh man, don't put me on the spot. I would say that probably my big thing right now is I'm trying to get more shorts out the door, because those seem to be getting the most traction of a lot of the things that I'm doing. I'll do a live stream, something like that, play some like classic PC game or classic Macintosh game, and that gets so many viewers. But it's funny. It's some of the shorts and stuff that I've done where I've taken like a 10, what was originally like a 10-minute video, and shrunk it into like 1 minute. Those will get like 5 and 6 times the views that the other thing will, and it ends up that the actual like view hours and things like that are comparable. So it's like, might as well.
I was going to mention Eric Miller just popped out. The welcome guide and style guide links are dead on the site. I noticed that yesterday, and we need to we'll get that fixed.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to them.
See.
The files are still there. They just don't go anywhere. I'm not sure what happened there. But
Yeah, we'll see. That's kind of a
From the author.
the Google Docs. Yeah, we gotta
Something
fix
happened to
the
permissions or something. Yeah.
fix the link on that.
How are your hours looking, Ron?
Not good. Actually, better. It's been getting better all the time because it can't get any worse. So I just I put things out there and try to put more diverse stuff out there, and you just hope for the best. It's one of those things. It's like Joel Hodgson has always said, kind of the father of Mystery Science Theater. The right people will get it.
Yes.
So
yes.
I'm slowly finding my audience as time goes on.
And the ironic thing about what you just said before is, of course, that it can actually get worse.
If you believe YouTube, if YouTube is to be believed, you are doing terrible at all times, and that is something that's even echoed by like huge channels that will say like, oh, like YouTube told me that we got like 20,000 fewer viewers, like on our previous video, and I'm just like, you know what? I would love to have a problem like that. We're just 20,000 fewer. I mean, that's my problem every time. But I would just love to be able to be like, oh yeah, I just missed out on 25,000 people. I'll get it next time.
Yes, we love hearing sort of really successful YouTubers whining about that sort of stuff. It always makes you feel so good inside.
All I gotta say, if you skip the ads, that's piracy.
Yes, that's right. What if I was just wondering? What if you close your eyes? Is that piracy as well?
I'm just what I was watching something on TV the other day, and I got up and I went to the bathroom during the commercial break, and it was
Piracy.
it was cops at my door,
Yeah.
like within 30 seconds. Oh my gosh!
How dare you?
We're getting there. Hopefully not.
But that's it. That's my world at the moment.
Javier, tell everybody about you and where they can find your cool stuff.
Oh, well, I got several things that I got to tell. Well, first of all, the coolest, best t-shirt store in the world, 8bittees.com. So you got to go buy some cool tees and shirt.
Is that the Beagle Brothers?
Yeah, Beagle Brothers.
Oh, wow. Blast from the past.
Go to the office, in a nice, and show the Beagle Brothers. Not any, crappy thing that you can use. Beagle. So those kind of good things you can find in 8bittees.com. Also go to my channel. It's called Adventures in Retro Computing. And, youtube.com have master. And talking about that, and that's why I'm showing a little bit that poster over there. I actually found my second poster that I have of that. I only have 2 of them. And I'm going to give it away when I get my 1,000
Nice.
people, visitor in my channel. So I'm gonna give away one of those posters, and I'm gonna give away a joystick. So keep on clicking and subscribing, guys.
And do you ship to Australia as well?
I would, yeah. So anyway, those are the two things, and I think that's it. Keep on watching. I haven't posted too much, but I'm gonna keep doing some shorts like Ron and Joe, and I think that's it. Yep.
Cool. Rudy, what's going on in your world? What's that cool thing everybody needs to know about you?
I'm going to, Rudy's Retro Intel. That's the name of the channel. You can find me there. My content, I haven't put a lot of content so far this year because of my work schedule. The first quarter of the year is always crazy, and it's very difficult. I'm doing 12, 14-hour days, so squeezing in a video here and there is going to be difficult. However, I have 2 ideas from shorts that will be coming out, and I've updated my GitHub site. I have a spreadsheet for the Apple II series and the Commodore computers where I put in things that I've found. You have this error, this problem. Here's some things to look at. Here's some chips or, whatever, resistors, caps, or whatever. But just some quick guides to help people out that you may not know. You run across something, you go, I don't know what's going on. And you might just go in there. You can do a search for what your problem is or what the computer problem, not your problem, but the problem the computer's having, and then hopefully fix it up. And
Dr. Rudy, I have this rash.
Yeah. Don't take the keyboard and rub it on your head.
Apply directly to the forehead.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
And if you do have a rash,
kids today won't know that. Anyway,
take a picture.
Cool.
That's it. How about
Awesome
you, Joe?
sauce.
Yeah, Joe. What about you?
Oh gosh.
You
The
have
biggest thing in my world is I'm now a Blue SCSI seller. So if you go over to jcm-1.com, I'm typing that right now. Can you hear it? With my super loud keyboard. But if you go to jcm-1.com, you can order one of those Blue SCSIs. With the exception is that you can only order the DB25s, because in the first week of my Blue SCSIs, I sold out all of the desktop ones. So I'm going to have to do a new order run of parts, which is a little bit slow right now because a lot of the stuff comes from China, unfortunately, and they're doing their Lunar New Year thing, but that's okay. They're entitled to have a week off from the craziness that we make them put through over here in the Western world. So, yeah. But I will have those available again pretty soon and restocked.
So, Joe, are you selling the version 1.1?
I am selling. Yes, I am selling the newest version 1.1, which if on my next run of that, I'm going to have the ability for you to select LED headers. So if you want the drive light and the status light to do the blinky blinky, if you want to say if you have an SE30 and you can take the little wire from your hard drive, they'll disconnect the doodle and stick it into there and make it blink, you can do that. Nice. So yeah. That will be super cool when I have that available. I do have some video stuff, as I discussed, planned, specifically the board reverse engineering video. But the problem with that is I've been so busy with this box full of parts for my Blue SCSI builds that I have not been doing anything but doing that for the past, like 2 weeks now. So it's been kind of crazy, but that's going to end up getting out the door at some point. Also, I got some vintage retro other parts stuff and things on jcm-1.com, like Javier. If you see in the upper right corner there, I sell these thinking mugs. Those Apple solder yourself, do it yourself logos, also t-shirts and stuff like that too. So if you want to help out the crazy museum that is back here, you snag a couple cool nerdy things, and that funding goes straight back into the production of all of the things I do, like videos and reverse engineering boards. So, and that is my spiel, and I'm sticking to it.
Support the nerds.
And just sticking with the Blue SCSI theme, I've got a whole bunch of version 1.0 colored brackets going cheap because They don't fit the version 1.1.
So if you're in Australia,
Yeah, and you want a
And you
colored
need-
bracket, just let me know. For your old Blue Scuzzy, not for your new one.
that's the trick I learned very early on in the Blue Scuzzies. Do the Henry Ford thing. You can have it in any color you want as long as it's blue.
Yeah.
Right.
I give people a choice of a blue, white, black, yellow, or red. And 90% just select white. So
Wow,
Cool.
interesting.
Well, I think that wraps it up for tonight's show. Thank you all for stopping by, and thank you very much to our wonderful and very entertaining guest, Bruce from Branchus Creations.
you
No,
are
thank
most
you.
welcome.
Thank you at all to Ron, who stole the show and always does.
Jeez,
I don't know that that's true. Bruce, I do want to say before we go, I used to always say that my favorite Australian was Paul Hogan, but you have displaced him, sir.
Oh,
You are my favorite friend down under. Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Thank you.
I'll drink to that.
Yes, and well, I mean, Paul Hogan. I mean, wow, gosh, that's quite extraordinary. Thank you very much. That's quite a compliment.
I was going to say Yahoo Serious, but I did not want to insult you.
Most people wouldn't know who he is. So, didn't he come and go very quickly?
Oh, maybe. But I was really, I'm glad you didn't say some tragic
Like
end.
Boomer
Didn't
and-
they find him dead in a Motel 6 bathroom? I'd be
Yes,
like, Bruce, we can't
think
end
he's
on a
still
down.
alive. He's probably
he-
working in McDonald's or something. I don't
Yeah,
know.
he'd have to be. It's people, kids here, they love Yahoo Serious. He's the Rocco of Australian comedians.
But what about that Chris Hemsworth dude? He's
Yeah,
another.
probably. Oh, is he
a-
from Australia?
He's a quality export. Yes.
Oh, I guess maybe.
That's the Thor guy, isn't
I kept thinking he was from New Zealand.
No. We he's
You
out
claiming? Good.
Yeah.
Seems like a nice enough guy.
there. Yeah, he does.
All righty, we're going to go ahead and sign off now. Again, thank you all for hanging out with us tonight. Thanks for Bruce for stopping by. Remember, before you leave, lasso that like button, smash that subscribe button, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Take care.
Y'all
Y'all come back now. You hear?